So today we're going to be revisiting one of the webinars the recordings of the webinars that we did back, probably 3 years ago now, but consistently is one of the ones that we get lots and lots of replays on globally around the use of sway in communication. So we thought we'd revisit it, go back and have another look at sway as it does constantly update, and perhaps re-bring up this perhaps underutilized tool in the 365 stack. So we get the question, what is sway? And first thing I always want to make sure is that the users of the sway, the people who are going to consume it, don't even need to know the product exists. But what it is a lightweight storytelling app that lets you create presentations or reports or various other ways of telling a story in a digital platform that's really powerful, and you control the layout, the sharing and the design, and it makes it feel a lot more interactive. A couple of things to get out of the way. It is included in the PDS Microsoft 365 build. I'll come into the where the data is stored a little bit later on. It is included in the licensing, so it's not free. It's a capability we're paying for as part of our investment into the Microsoft 365 stack. It has a hell of a lot more insight than just sending a PDF out. It gives you some data, not as much data as you'd always want, but there's some real good insights that you can use for it. And it creates an interactivity because you can embed other digital content within it, ranging from forms or other online content, LinkedIn posts, so people can interact through the sway experience with other products. The key thing for this is it's an online tool. Think of it as a micro website that you're in absolute control over. You have the option and control to restrict access, to remove access, but importantly to collaborate with others in the design and making of it. One of the key things for me, and we will show this in the demo in a little while, is the accessibility features that it's got built in. It's designed to put the user in control of how they consume the content, and we'll cover some of those features in a little while. And it actively encourages sharing, so fantastic for internal communications or external communications where you want messages to land in an audience and be shared on. And that device agnostic experience, it's phenomenal on mobile or desktop, and it doesn't put the onus on the creator to use it. So let's get into it and what's sway good for. Now, you can use it as a presentations tool. I don't see many people using it like that. The most that people using it for is things like newsletters or reports, or I would describe it as telling an impactful story. If you've got a very short window to get information across and you want it to be a combination of visual and text, potentially even embedding video or even creating some interactivity elements, telling a story with sway can be a really useful way to reach an audience. And one of the most important points as well is that it's a story that you can edit after you've sent it out. But what I mean by that is you can create a sway, create a newsletter or a report, and then as the information changes around it, you can edit live the content, and then the next person who opens it will be getting the very latest information. And we can think about some use cases in relation to that. So for an internal comms issue in a police force, you might be thinking about what are the key lines to take during this major incident. You could create a sway, and as that changes, you've got all the key lines to take across an internal audience, and you can constantly keep it up to date with the latest statements, the latest up-to-date information that allows the officers on the front line to look at their mobile and go, yeah, this is the information I've got at hand, and this is what I can say to the public. Or you can think of it as newsletters for neighborhood newsletters. You might want to a neighborhood team to create a newsletter. It comes into the communications team, and then they can make sure it's legal, appropriate, and ready to go out, and then share it with the public. Because there is granularity of control over who can use what elements of functionality, particularly around the sharing. So you could have some colleagues who can only create a sway that can be shared internally, and then other colleagues who can create ones that can be shared externally. And an important point around the accessibility and control on that is, even if you've got a link to a sway, if it's not set that it can be accessed from outside the organisation or outside specific users, the link is just a dead link. It doesn't take them anywhere. They can't access it. And of course, you can change the status of sharing at any time. So you could publish something and then withdraw the access at a later stage. So you can see how powerful it could be. One of the key differences, and we'll get into a Sway in a minute and show you around it, is you don't worry as much about fonts and layout. You basically put the content into a Sway and decide how much emphasis or detail you want it to, prominence you want it to have. So there's two types of text box, and we'll come into this in a little bit when we get to the live demo. But you've got headings, you've got emphasis, you've got accents, and the usual sort of tools where you can put links in the copy. But then you've got the boxes at the side here where you can say that's a normal emphasis on that piece placement on the product, or a larger, significant emphasis on a piece of text. For an image, you've got three options of how much emphasis and focal points. I'll show you what that means in a little while as well. So there's a lot of control, but perhaps for the normal designer who's used to Word or creating PDFs or PowerPoints, it might feel a lot less control. This is to enable that accessibility because it allows the tooling then to manage that accessibility. So what are the elements of a Sway? You've got a number of elements. So you've got text options. So you've got a heading 1, a heading 2 and text. And obviously you can do some changes within the text to put emphasis on certain words, the bullet points or the accent. You've also then got media options. You can put an image in there, you can embed a piece of an iframe, or you could upload some content to it. And then you can decide how it's going to be laid out in terms of groups, automatic groups, a grid group, and we'll come to what they look like in a second, a comparison one for an image, so you can literally slide a slider across to compare two images. And that gives you some control. And this is all managed through the storyline. And as I say, once we get into the demo in a second, it'll make a little bit more sense as we get into it. But you've got a lot of controls over the content, and it's a matter of focusing on the content first and the layout secondly. Before we go to the live demo, I'll just show you what those visual groups look like. So I ran off to good old Microsoft's own learning pages. You can see here an automatic group will put the images in and try and shape it how you want to. A uniform grid group will create a uniform grid for where the images appear. So that gives you an idea of the sort of tooling that's sitting there to help you understand as we get into it. We'll come back to sharing in the live demo in a minute, but I think that's enough to get you a feeling of perhaps what I'm going to demonstrate. So we'll bring onto screen now a Sway and how you would create a Sway, etc. So you head over to the typical 9 dots in Microsoft is where you start from all the time. You always head to the 9 dots and you'll find the Sway tool is sitting in your tools if it's been enabled for all your users, and it is sitting there, and you'll find it listed across, and you can find it in all apps or wherever you normally want to find it. It's one of the ones I use fairly regularly, so it's normally in my favorites, but you head into Sway and that's where you find it sitting there, and there's your Sway area. And there's two ways of creating a Sway. We'll come to the rest of the screen in a moment. You can create from blank, create new, or you can create from a document and start from a document. And that's the one I'm going to show you first of all. So what I've done, I'm going to run over to the desktop, and I've got a demo folder here. And what I've done is do a case study. It's an old case study from the old days of the NEP, and I've got a Word document for it. And if I just quickly pop the Word document up, you can see what we've got. So here's a Word document I've created where I've put headings in, heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, a bit of content, an image, a link, and laid out a very rough document with an image sharing, etc. So the starting point for any content you'd normally want to create. I've done that there. What I'm going to do is click Start with Document, and it opens up the Explorer, and pick the Word file. As you can see, Windows 11 is giving us that preview of it there. Make sure the file isn't open in Word anyway, because it will come up with a conflict, and you click Open. And that will then trigger Sway to go away and to look at that Word document, and it'll take about a minute or so to create the Sway from what you've already created. And this is probably a good way if you're coming new to Sway and you want to try and understand how you can use it better, or you want to make a document that you've already produced in Word or something else, and you want to make it into a Sway to make it more accessible. So it takes a little moment to work through. Hopefully it's going to click through in a second, but if not, in typical Blue Peter fashion, I do have one I've made earlier. So I think we'll bring in that one now over the screen. So we've got that one. So this is exactly the same document, but I made it earlier. So let me just get rid of that little warning. And basically you can see how it started to lay out the Word document. So what I'll do quickly is put this on one side of the screen and bring the Word document up onto the other side of the screen. If I can just bring that back in, open Word. You can see what it's done. It's always helpful to see what it's done, and then you can make a bit more sense out of it. So, okay. So you can see here, if I just bring down the scroll, you can see how it started to divide up the text into the different boxes. So you've got your title, it's picked up from the top. Now I've already edited this title to make it easier to me to find while I was demoing it. And then it's gone through and you can see it's inserted heading 1 from heading 1 there, heading 2 from there, and started to put the text. It's put text box, then it's put the image in, and you can see how it scrolled it through. Then it saw another large heading, so it's created another heading there and put the text in to follow it, and then put the images in, etc. So you can see how it's done it automatically for you in a very simple way based on the Word document. So let's just get this back onto full screen, and so you can see the detail. So let's take you through each element as we go. So you always start with this top header, which is the title of the sway. And when you come back to finding it, this is where it'll be. And whenever you see an arrow, you can see a drop down. So it's allowing me to put an image in there. And again, I can search from my OneDrive, from my device, or I can do a quick Google image search, sorry, a Bing image search. So let's put the Belgian picture in there. Let's put the Belgian flag in. I'll pop that into there. And then I can always add a logo as well. So if I wanted to run off and get the corporate logo, you can just go into your logo file, find your logo. Let's put the logo in. Let's put the white logo in. And so it's created those first elements of the sway. So I've told you to put an image in. I can caption it up. I can put the organisation logo in. You can even emphasize the captions, or you can put some focus point. We'll come back to that in a second. So that started it off, and then I'm going down the page. There's my next heading, and again I've got some more controls over this where I can put a bit more emphasis on the title there, or put it in accent, or could even make that title a clickable link, or insert another image next to it. And then I've got another one here where I've done the same header card again. I might have said I wanted that one to be header card 2. Again, I can put the image in, I can upload it from my device wherever I want to, etc., and do all these sort of things. So you can see you put your text in. I can make a text into a heading. So if it's perhaps brought it in and I wanted to import it and make it a heading, I can put all those different elements to it, and I can put the prominence on the page of it. So I think this is really important to explain who they are. I'll make that bigger on the page. You're not looking at the design yet, you're just putting your content in how you want to. So now I've got a caption here where it's asking me to, I've put it, it's already asking me to put the image in. If I wanted to upload an image, it's very simple to do, but I've got two boxes when I click the down button. So I can put a caption, this will appear on the screen. So photo of the logo, but then importantly for the accessibility, it's done the alt text, the alternative text for the screen reader. And you can see here, again, this is where the tooling is helping you. It's the AI has automatically scanned that logo, that image, and automatically generated a description of it. That's helpful, but it's not always accurate. And again, for accessibility, we shouldn't really be relying on these things. So you can edit that link. So it's a close-up of a blue and white logo of, oops, a daisy, it's typical Demigods, things are moving around, okay, of the force. You can put as much detail in there as you want to. There is a decorative button that tells it to the screen readers to ignore it, but the compatibility issues for screen readers are quite heavy on that. So sometimes that doesn't work, and that will remove that accessibility. You can see I've put a link in there. I managed to do all those sort of things without any challenge, any difficulty at all. It's built that in. And then on to the next section, and we move through. So what does that actually look like in terms of the design? And this is where you click the design button. So you run off to the design, and this is the design that it's put in. So you can see how it's embedded the logo in on the page automatically for me, and it's put a rather dodgy logo image in there. So that's obviously not going to work. So I'm going to go back to the storyline. It's focusing on too much of that black content here, so I've got to tell it what to focus on that image, and I'm going to tell it the entire image is important. Okay, now let's have a look at what that's done to the design. Give it a second to refresh. Always a challenge when you're demoing live on this, that you get, it starts to lag, it starts to slow down, it's still not working properly. Obviously that image is not going to work for me. I'm going to get rid of that one. I haven't deleted the content, I've just taken the image out, etc. So let's go back into the rest of the design. And you can see it's put the caption there, and if you use the screen reader it will show you, and I'll show you the accessibility view. But actually I think I want that logo to be more emphasis, so again, without going back to storyline, I can change the emphasis on that to a moderate, and it's positioned here as a moderate. This text here, remember I put it as quite large emphasis in the first place. I'll take that back down to subtle, and it's brought it down. So you can do a little bit of the visual editing here, but also you might not be happy with the style, and this is where your design flair comes in. And it is a little bit more limited to the normal design, but you've got a number of options. You've got the presentation of it as a vertical newsletter. Click a button here and it becomes a horizontal product, or you click another button and it becomes slides. So this is where you could use it as an alternative to PowerPoint. This is really a newsletter that's vertical format. And then you can choose the coloration through the customize button. So you might want to say, I want to take the logo color. If I put the color logo there, it would pick the color palette out of the logo automatically, or could say take it out of the picture. So it's going to look at that picture for the colors that have been used and allow us to select the colors that we want the tooling to use. You can also control some limited elements around the fonts. So again, I'm a massive advocate for Sans Roman type fonts in there, and you can put some text size. You can make it larger, you can make it smaller, and you can control how much animation of content that comes in there. Again, you can still go in here and put your custom colors in as well using your hash codes. And the other element you've got is the custom palettes here. So again, it's running a little slow. It's not picking the color out from the logo or the picture very well. You've got some colored palettes in there, or you've got formats here where you might say make the images black and white, or color if they're color available in the backgrounds. And you can play with these to your heart's content, and you'll usually find something that really works for you, and based on the organizational colors. You can pick one, go in and customize it and say, well, actually I like that layout but I don't like that font. You can just mess around with it until you get what you want to. Don't worry, you can create a template so you don't have to keep doing this. And you can create something that looks along the lines that suits your organizational style, makes it look nice and clean, and get it to a point that you've created the demo how you want it, the newsletter or the products how you want to do it. So that is the basic. You have got the remix button. If you just want some inspiration, click the remix button and it'll come up with suggestions at different times to what you want to use, and then it still can go in and customize it. Probably not our style, that one, so let's move on and remix from that one and make it as simple as steady. So let's make it something into there. Again, you're not changing the content. It knows what's emphasis, what's not, and you can change the emphasis at any time by running back to the storyline. And what you can also do is, if you've laid out a piece of content, you can concertina it all down and change the order around by simply saying, well, that section's this, I'm going to move this section to there, and you've done it. It's that easy to do to manage that content. The other elements is, again, is what else you can add in. So say you've created it from a Word document and you want to add some more text into this section about who they are. Click the plus button, and there's how you can put your heading in, your text, your image. That controls the grouping or upload. Or if you go to text, you can see heading 1, heading 2. So you can put heading 2 in, second level heading, and the textings are there, more text. And then after that, I'm actually going to put, okay, let's say I want to put an image next to that as well. I'll run off to an image and get that. Or I can actually embed a form in there as well. So I'm just going to run to a demo form I've created for this. So I'll show you how to do that. And you would actually fill the form in. So that's the wrong one. Let me just get that one out of the way again. Forms. I did a demo form. Well, let's use the webinar feedback form. So I'm over in forms. We've covered forms a few times. I go run over there and I collect the embed code. run back to my demo sway, and I'm going to insert some HTML. So I'm going to go to Media, Embed the iframe. It's done. So what does that look like in the design? There is your interactive web form that you can fill in within the sway itself without having to be linked out to something else. So you can see how it's beginning to work in a really powerful way to create your content. So you've created your content, you've put it all in there, you've moved your images around. I won't go into the detail on that. How do you control it and what are the settings? So again, this is where you go over to the right hand side and you're looking for the three dots, and this is where you can go into your settings for this sway. So you can select the language. So for our Welsh users, you can create it in Welsh. You will have the option there to do that. You can show text direction boxes, which is quite helpful if you want to be able to show them which way to go. Then you've got the controls over the view. So viewers and co-authors can duplicate this sway. So you'd probably turn that off. But then you've also got control over not allowing the sway to be printed or exported. So again, for external use, could be really powerful in there. But you can still let viewers change the way the sway is laid out. That turns off the little footer, so it doesn't say sway at the bottom, but that can be useful for accessibility as well. And you can actually use sway to create kiosk type content where you can set it to auto play and to loop continuously, which might be useful for kiosk type presentations. The other element in here is your accessibility checker. And this is a really powerful tool to make sure that you've got your accessibility needs addressed before you publish. So here we've got an unclear hypertext text. So the display text, it's literally just put here. So here I can change it to click here to watch the video. Click done. And that's edited, it's in the content, and you've changed your improvements. Alternative text, a screenshot of webinar, and that's automatically generated. Well, it's not actually, that's a screenshot from website. Click done, and that's edited in there. And then you've got your other reviews where you might want to look at how something's been embedded. Is that working properly? Is the hyperlink working and been renamed properly? So all your accessibility checking before you publish is done in the three dots there. And then this is accessibility view, is how you turn it into, it strips away the fancy animation, it strips away the clever formatting or any backgrounds, and creates a very simple and clean view for accessibility, people who need accessibility. It also strips away anything unnecessary for screen readers as well. Now the viewers get the choice to use that view as well, but again, it's giving you that option to have a look at it and understand how that works before you do it. You can print and you can create a PDF, you can create a template, duplicate it, and of course you can find content in there as well. So I'll just exit the accessibility review and go back to the edit, and then you share buttons. That's the next bit. And you can see you've got three options of how you want to share this. Anyone with specific groups in your organization, so you can put email addresses of people in the organization or a channel or a group. Anybody who's got the link in the organization, or anyone with the link is for the external publishing. And you can see the options to change down here as we go along each of them. So you can create an embed code and embed that on your intranet. You can create a visual link for sharing into Teams. If you just click that, it creates a little visual link that you can just copy that and put it into a Teams message. Or specific people here. And that's where you can provide edit rights as well to be able for people to edit it. So there's a lot of control over it, and of course at any time you can come back into here, click the more options, you can reset the share options that removes it, and you can set passwords, and you can also stop people sharing it or discourage people from sharing it by controlling it there. So a lot of controls. We're running out a little bit of time, so here's one that I made earlier. This is now, I'm in a private window, so this is the controls the viewer gets. So because I've got share enabled, they can click share, they can share it to Facebook, to LinkedIn, because this one I've put for external. They can do the embeds because I've left that switched on. The user's got the control to be able to change their own settings on it, and of course they can reach the accessibility view or print because I've left them switched on. So it's a really simple way of being able to manage sway in a more effective way. Great question come in there. So what we're going to do is go back to the deck because I have prepared some earlier. So there's your control over the sway sharing that I've covered in the live demo, and those are the settings that we've already covered, and we've covered accessibility. You can save it as a template, and then when you go to Sway, you'll be able to see your templates there, and you can save them, and that means you've got less worrying about the formatting all the time, or you can hover over any Sway and duplicate it. Quick question before we get to analytics is, where's the data stored? Now, the tenants who are located in the UK, UK policing, within the EU data boundary, have their data only stored in the EU data centres. Our advice at the moment is use Sway for your external and internal comms, not your sensitive briefings. The sort of thing that you can publish or would be subject to FOI in publishing. So, we don't see this perhaps as an intelligence briefing tool, but certainly for internal comms, external comms, and that sort of work and sharing collaboration, it's really powerful. And yes, there are insights at analytics to Sway. On the Sway platform, when you run into Sway, let me just go back to the Sway screen very quickly. So when you open Sway and you go back to Sway, you've got a number of options on your dashboard here. So there's your Sways. Those are the Sways I've viewed. And then there's my analytics. You can view them by date edited, etc. And you get these basic analytics. But what does that mean? So here we've got a Sway where it's been viewed nearly 2,000 times, average time 4 minutes, 27% of people completed it. And then there's these 3 definitions of how much they've read it. Now, just remember, if your Sway is only a couple of paragraphs, a little bit of detail, glanced is probably enough to read it. It's only the detailed Sways and the detailed information that you would get read in depth. But there's the categories that you get in terms of how many, what sort of information that you can do. You do not need E5 for this. It's E3 and it's within your licensing. So it's all available to use. Esther, is there anything else I haven't covered in there in terms of the deck?
I haven't seen anything there, but I have a question, if I may.
Go for it.
In that, given it's such a powerful tool, why do you think that not as many forces are using it as could?
I think there's been 2 reasons. I think there's been a bit of confusion about where the data is stored and whether they're allowed to use it. And some people have said just because it's not where everything else is, that you can't use it at all. It's data information management is about managing the information you use. One of the most people who could use this most are communications teams who are publishing things to the internet anyway, and the data is fine in the EU boundary for those sort of things. And secondly, this is a different thing. We are used to having tangible Word documents and PDFs, but that isn't always the most accessible and easiest way of sharing information that could be changing. So I think there's 2 reasons, a bit of confusion over whether it can or can't be used in policing, and it certainly can. It's within the tools we use. We've had some fantastic examples of forces using it. However, I also think it's a little bit of resistance of perhaps not thinking about the use cases enough and how it could be used and how it is better than a PDF, better than a presentation or a web page, etc., because you can keep that content moving faster. Okay, I'm just conscious of time. We're coming to the bottom of the hour. A couple of really important announcements. Next Wednesday at 2 o'clock, we are going to be announcing the winners of the NPCC Digital Data and Technology Awards live on Teams. The invites are going out to the people who've been nominated at the moment. It's all on the PDS website. The QR code allows you to join us live on next Tuesday, where the chair of the National Digital Data and Technology Committee and the judges will be announcing who's won out of the 8 categories. And there's been over 130 nominations for that. It's phenomenal. Please join us next Wednesday to find out who's won, including if you've been nominated yourself. And we have a couple of police-only workshops in person planned next week as well for the strategy refresh. Again, this is where we're working supporting the National Digital Data and Technology Coordination Committee. There's 2 police-only events. We have got a new for industry as well. The industry one's full, and we'll be announcing more details on that. But these are for police colleagues who want to come along and help shape the future of the digital strategy. And the other elements are, these are the other events coming up in the very near future. Head over to the PDS website. Tell us about your experience of the webinars. So we've run over about a minute today, which is not normal for us, but there's a lot to cover in Sway. And if you've got any other questions, reach out to your business engagement team, who will be more than happy to support and to help. So please get in touch and let us know what you think of our Wednesday webinars. Remember the feedback, and I hope you can join us next week when we're going to be talking about cybersecurity and tools that everybody needs to help them keep their data and their systems safe. Thanks for watching.